Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, is a powerhouse within the Marvel Cinematic Universe and easily the strongest Avenger in terms of power, and you can even argue hacks abilities, although she does have some stiff competition in the latter. In this video, I will be detailing Wanda's incredible powers, and while I typically discuss strength, speed, durability, and then hacks, as well as all other abilities and skills, in this video I will be focusing primarily on Wanda's raw power and her hacks abilities, as she simply scales to Thanos, Thor, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, etc. in speed, and her durability really isn't much to write home about, although the new sword Vision was trying to crack her skull open and he didn't do it instantly, so I mean there's that. I will mention some notable speed feats toward the end of the video, so just keep that in mind. Also, this video does contain major spoilers for all of her Marvel Cinematic Universe appearances, including WandaVision. Additionally, this video will be covering the Marvel Cinematic Universe only, not the comic book source material. And if you guys enjoy these videos, please be sure to comment, hit that like button, and subscribe. It lets us know that you guys want more of these videos, and it helps us get them out to you quicker. With that being said, let's begin. As we learned during the events of WandaVision, Wanda Maximoff has always been a witch, more specifically the Scarlet Witch, who was foretold in the Darkhold. She was a witch who was not born but forged, and she had powers that she used subconsciously, referred to as chaos magic, which she first demonstrated with the probability hex that she placed on the Stark missile that crashed into her family's apartment. Unlike the typical witches within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, such as Morgan Le Fay and Agatha Harkness, Wanda had no need to speak or weave hand signs to cast spells because she was the Scarlet Witch. After this traumatic experience as a child, she and her brother were radicalized, and they joined HYDRA to become guinea pigs in their experiments with the Scepter. After being exposed to the Scepter, and more specifically the Mind Stone, Wanda's powers were amplified by the Golden Infinity Gem, and ever since then, Wanda has been one of the most powerful beings the Avengers have ever encountered. Using her psionic abilities, Wanda was able to tear apart Ultron's vibranium hull and shatter his heart. And if you aren't quite sure how durable vibranium is, remember Captain America's vibranium shield could completely no-sell strikes from Thor during Loki's insurrection, and Thor just setting his hammer down could shake mountains. Then remember that in Age of Ultron, it took the combined might of Vision, Thor, and Iron Man to begin to damage Ultron, not even destroy him completely. You could argue that the damage dealt to Ultron by these three and the Hulk weakened the metal enough to make it more pliable, but Ultron blocked most of their attack with his arms, and his faceplate was really the only noticeable damage done to the homicidal robot. So in my opinion, this is a legit feat for Wanda. The breastplate seems to be completely intact, so Wanda ripping it apart so casually is super impressive. If you have seen my videos on Thor, Black Panther, or Thanos, you know just how impressive this feat actually is, but for those who haven't, Thanos can output forces of over a teraton with his attacks, meaning Thanos' strikes are over 20,000 times more powerful than the world's most powerful nuclear bomb at a minimum. It took multiple strikes from Thanos, the most powerful villain the Avengers have ever faced, wielding an Uru blade to break apart Cap's vibranium shield, and Wanda just rips apart vibranium in her first appearance. While this is impressive, Wanda continues to become more and more powerful over the years as she trains with the Avengers, and eventually comes face to face with Thanos twice. The first time she battles the Mad Titan, he held 5 Infinity Stones, and she was able to delay him long enough to shatter the Mind Stone contained within Vision's head. While according to multiple sources Thanos was holding back here, it's still impressive as it's clear he had to try somewhat to get through her attacks and required the Infinity Stones to block her assault. But once she returns in Endgame, there are no Infinity Stones to protect Thanos from her wrath. First, she takes out Thanos' weapon, a blade made of Uru. This is a feat we've only seen replicated once before, by Hela, the goddess of death, who had nearly limitless power to draw from Asgard. After disarming Thanos, Scarlet Witch takes full advantage, lifting Thanos from the ground like Yoda lifts X-Wings. She then began peeling apart Thanos' armor while simultaneously crushing him with her magic, to the point where Thanos was forced to fire at his own army to free himself. And Thanos is just as durable as he is strong, able to take abuse from the Hulk, Bleeding Edge Iron Man, Mjolnir amped worthy Captain America, and Captain Marvel, and he's able to keep going. Kevin Feige outright says that Wanda was going to kill Thanos.
Well, I think it's interesting if you look at Endgame, Wanda Maximoff was going to kill Thanos.
And the Russo brothers state that she was the biggest threat to Thanos on the battlefield, which directly scales her above the heroes we just mentioned, plus some other heavy hitters such as Doctor Strange. And speaking of the Sorcerer Supreme, Agatha Harkness lets us know that Wanda's power does in fact exceed that of Doctor Strange. The Darkhold even holds a prophecy foretelling the destruction of the world by the Scarlet Witch, so in reality she likely has planet-busting potential. So just in terms of raw power, Wanda outscales pretty much everyone in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we haven't even talked about her hacks yet, so let's get to those. As an inexperienced child, Wanda unknowingly cast a probability hex on the Stark missile that threatened to kill her and her brother Pietro. But after having her powers unlocked, Wanda is more purposefully able to control the spells that she uses. Wanda primarily uses psionic powers in the form of energy blasts, force fields, really anything she can think of. She's used this power to cipher a dangerous gas out of a building, contain an explosion, strangle a large group of people, send out an energy pulse that vaporized a large group of Ultron bots, destroy the Mind Stone while simultaneously holding back Thanos, and even fly. Using this power, she can affect the world at a microcellular level, however, she rarely does this in combat. She also uses a variety of hexes to ensnare the mind of her opponents, as she does to the Avengers and also Agatha Harkness on multiple occasions, causing them to endure painful visions. But in the case of Hulk, she was able to enrage him beyond the point of Bruce Banner's influence, causing the Green Goliath to go berserk and begin a rampage. The effect of her mental manipulation doesn't just end after an encounter with her. As the Avengers, including the mighty Thor, were still seeing visions and hearing voices hours after their battle with the Witch. In the final stand against Ultron and his legion of robots, Wanda was able to control the minds of a large group of people, compelling them to get to safety. And of course, Wanda is able to mess with minds at an even deeper level. During the Westview incident, she is able to suppress an individual's personality and replace it with another of her choosing, making an entire town of actors in her sitcom, and anyone that entered the Hex was just passively mind-haxed and reality warped by Wanda. After the Hex was taken down, she was also able to mind-hax Agatha Harkness, who had shown resistance to it prior. Not only can Wanda put others under her spell, she can release them from the control of others as well. During the Age of Ultron, Helen Cho was made into Ultron's thrall by the Mind Stone itself, but Wanda was able to undo that control pretty casually. Wanda's mental powers are not just limited to influencing others' minds. She can also speak telepathically and read their minds, as she does with Ultron as he is transferring his consciousness to Vision's would-be body. After creating the Hex, Wanda begins to really flex her magical abilities. Of course, she completely rewrites reality, recreating the town of Westview to her liking and maintaining these changes within the Hex passively. In a combat scenario, she is essentially a walking reality stone, able to bend the laws of physics to her will. Even after exiting the Hex, any rewritten object remains unchanged. But while in the Hex, not only can she transmute and transfigure, she can also create matter with her chaos magic, referred to as spontaneous creation. Interestingly, the Hex emits a radiation known as CMBR, which is closely associated with the remaining energy of the Big Bang, which likely came from her ability to create matter spontaneously, so these two events are likely intertwined. These spontaneous creations range from simple to extremely complex. Vision, for one, is an insanely complicated synthezoid created from a vibranium weave with a literal infinity stone implanted into his head to give him sentience. Not to mention her children, who have their own distinct personalities, appearance, and superpowers, which begs the question, can Wanda bestow superpowers? Well, it seems like she and other witches can. Vision has all of his powers, her kids have their own abilities, and Agatha was able to give fake Pietro super speed. And just as a side note, Wanda was able to pretty easily react to these speedsters within the Hex, so if they scale to her real brother, Wanda's speed has increased immensely after unleashing her chaos magic. Wanda can also teleport herself and others from place to place, something she learns while within the Hex. And she also has the ability to manipulate the elements, as she creates a fire in one episode, causes an electrical power surge, and even causes it to rain after her water breaks. Additionally, she has the ability to control time within the Hex. She controls the day-night cycle to fit within her sitcom episodes, and even turns time back when the Hex is infiltrated by a sword agent. She learned the protection spell after seeing it in Agatha's house, and was able to apply it on the fly during a battle to protect herself from Agatha's assault. Not only was she able to eventually prevent Agatha from casting spells, but she was able to absorb Agatha's attacks and then turn them back on her. Finally, after obtaining the Darkhold, Wanda learns how to perform astral projection, a spell first seen in Doctor Strange. However, Wanda is able to take it a step further, as she can move around in her body while her astral form is out doing something else, which is something the sorcerers have not been able to accomplish. How Wanda was able to learn this without any training is pretty easy to tackle. As we learn in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Darkhold was created in the Dark Dimension from the Dark Force. It's referenced to as a book of sins containing infinite knowledge, which reveals knowledge that the user is seeking, although corruption upon reading the book is common. Wanda wanted to learn more about herself, magic, and possibly a way to bring her children back to life, which is alluded to when we hear her children's voices. This is likely caused because the book wanted to reveal this information to her. When seeing the book, Phil Coulson could also hear voices coming from the pages, so that's pretty consistent. And while this next part is comic book canon and not official MCU material, it is interesting to consider. Excerpts from the Darkhold in the comics were copied down and written into the Book of Cagliostro. If that remains true for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then this all ties together very nicely, as the Darkhold was created in the Dark Dimension in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the Book of Cagliostro contained information to summon Dormammu and siphon his power via the ritual of Cagliostro during the events of Doctor Strange. And during the Season 3 of Runaways, Morgan Le Fay uses the infinite knowledge within the Darkhold to try and merge the Dark Dimension with Earth, so it all sort of makes sense together. And I know there are those of you who are already furiously typing how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Runaways aren't canon. Well, in the description, I've posted a massive Google Doc with mountains of evidence from in-universe, as well as quotes directly from Kevin Feige himself, stating that both series are canon to the film, so feel free to browse that before you press enter. So now that Wanda has the Darkhold, a book containing infinite knowledge and possibly the origin for all the tomes contained within the Kamar-Taj library, or at least the Forbidden section, she has the potential to skyrocket even further beyond the power that we've seen thus far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But that's not all. Wanda is extremely skilled in hand-to-hand combat, having been trained by Black Widow and Captain America directly for years. She is able to contend with the deadliest fighters in the MCU. Black Widow herself is stated to have unrivaled knowledge of martial arts. A decent chunk of that knowledge was passed on to Wanda during their years of training. Just to show you her skill level a bit more concretely, let's look at the skill of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. As detailed in our Thor video, Thor's skill in hand-to-hand combat is very underrated. Without his powers, he was able to make the most highly trained S.H.I.E.L.D. agents look like mall cops. He embarrassed them so thoroughly that Coulson was convinced Thor had decades of high-level training overseas. Flash forward to Endgame. Thor's immense skill is put to the test when he encounters the Mad Titan Thanos, who embarrasses Thor in hand-to-hand skill. Thanos is stated to have been traveling the universe for a millennia, defeating the universe's best heroes. He's referred to as the Genghis Khan of the universe, meant to be unbeatable in 1v1 combat. And while he takes out Thor with relative ease, Captain America really puts Thanos through his paces until Cap is eventually bested by Thanos. Then, Scarlet Witch shows up, able to match Thanos in hand-to-hand combat, eventually getting the upper hand and using her superior power to tear him apart. And this is all pretty consistent. Wanda is able to go blow for blow with Proxima Midnight as well, who is stated to be one of the most formidable warriors in the cosmos, someone who could fight Black Widow and Captain America simultaneously, and later bullies Okoye and Black Widow during the Battle of Wakanda. While not being really applicable in a versus battle scenario, Scarlet Witch was also molded into a spy by Black Widow, able to go undercover in espionage missions, and was even taught how to drop her Sokovian accent to blend in more easily while undercover. So to summarize, the Scarlet Witch outscales every other hero and villain in the MCU other than a few notable exceptions such as Dormammu. With her chaos magic, she has the potential to destroy Earth, but she also has a massive variety of hacks available to her, and this arsenal is only going to grow with more time spent studying the infinite Darkhold. She also has extremely fast reflexes, scaling to the top tier characters in the universe, and even casually reacting to speedsters within the Hex. Finally, being trained by Black Widow and Captain America, her skill seems to be outright unmatched in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we've barely begun to scratch the surface of Wanda's reality-altering, Infinity Stone-shattering powers. And I can't wait to see if she is able to continue to grow alongside Doctor Strange, especially if he teaches her how to control magic, as he has over years of training in Kamar-Taj, as well as the various time loops he's been party to. And that's pretty much all I've got for you guys today in terms of how powerful the Scarlet Witch really is. Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this video and who you would like to see a video on next. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. It does really help us out. And remember the motto, it's Scarlet Witch over everything. And I'll see you guys next time.